Today, we're digging into a pretty radical idea from the book, The Elite of the Unborn. And let me tell you, it challenges pretty much everything we think we know about power, status, and who the real elite actually are.
So let's just start with this question. What makes someone powerful? Seriously, think about it for a second. Is it money in the bank? Is it fame? Influence? Well, this book offers a completely different answer.
See, on one side, you've got society's usual answers, right? Wealth, fame, all that material success. But the source we're looking at today suggests something else entirely. It argues that real power, it doesn't come from what you own, it comes from your connection to the divine, the strength you get from your community, and this deep, unshakable certainty inside of you.
Okay, so how do you even get this kind of power? Well, our source starts by describing a very specific and pretty incredible feeling, the feeling of becoming the strongest person alive. This feeling, it's not something you get from closing a huge business deal or winning some award. No, the author describes it as a kind of certainty that just washes over you right after praying in a congregation. It's this profound sense of strength that comes from plugging into the ultimate source of all power.
The book uses this brilliant metaphor for it. Prayer is like charging a spiritual battery. It's not just a ritual, it's a direct download of energy. And when that battery is fully charged, all those challenges and temptations that usually feel so overwhelming, they suddenly seem tiny, almost insignificant.
But here's the thing, this power isn't just a solo mission. It gets amplified like crazy when you move from being an I to being part of a we, when you become part of a community.
And that brings us to this number, 27. The author makes this fascinating point that praying in a group makes a person qualitatively 27 times stronger than praying all alone. Now, this isn't literal math, obviously. It represents a total transformation in the very nature of your spiritual strength.
So how does that work? Well, a few things happen. First, your individual ego, that I, it kind of dissolves into the collective we. This creates a brand new, much stronger identity. And this is crucial. The group gives you protection. The book uses this powerful image of a stray sheep being easy prey for the wolf. But in the flock, in the community, there's safety. There's immense strength.
The feeling is described as this tangible connection, almost like an electric current of shared energy flowing from one person to the next, shoulder to shoulder in the prayer row. You become this unified force, a single, solid wall of shared devotion. And all of this builds up to the core argument of the book, which totally flips our idea of who has real status in this world. So, who are the real elite?
Just take a second. When I say the word elite, what's the first image that pops into your head? Probably celebrities, billionaires, people with tons of power, right? Okay, hold that thought.
Now look at this. On the left, you've got the usual symbols of the elite: magazine covers, private jets, massive skyscrapers. But on the right, you see a completely different list of qualifications. The true elites aren't defined by what they own, but by what they do. They're the ones who are awakened at dawn, who answer that divine call, and who stand before God.
The source defines this true elite, the real 1%, with this incredible line. They're the ones God loves to awaken every dawn to go to Him. Just think about that. Being chosen for this early morning prayer that's framed as the highest honor you can get. It's a sign of your real status in the universe.
But here's the best part. This isn't some exclusive club with a velvet rope that you can't get into. The final message is actually the exact opposite. It's an open invitation. The dawn prayer is described with such beautiful, intimate language, like a secret appointment for lovers. And the people who go, they're not jolted awake by some loud alarm clock. They're woken up by a gentle, internal call, a light tap on the wall of the heart. It's a personal, divine invitation.
So this completely reframes what exclusivity even means. It's not about your bank account or your family name. It's about sincerity, discipline, and whether you answer that internal call. It's an invitation to join what the author sees as the most meaningful club in the entire universe.
And so we're left with this final, really provocative question from the source material. In the grand scheme of things, are you going to stay a solitary zero, kind of disconnected from this incredible source of power, or are you going to join the elite, that from this point of view is the group that truly moves the world?
I want to start today by putting a specific image in your head, just instinctively for you listening. Who pops into your mind when I say the strongest person in the world?
Well, if I'm going with my gut reaction, it's probably an Olympic weightlifter. Or, maybe a tech billionaire who can tank a currency with a single tweet.
Right, or like a world leader with the nuclear codes.
Exactly. It's visible power, tangible.
Tangible power, right. We
Right.
equate strength with external capacity. Muscles, money, political leverage. It's that whole might makes right framework we've all been raised in.
Which makes sense. I mean, that's how the world operates on the surface.
It is. But today we are taking a deep dive into a text that argues the entire definition is, well, not just slightly off, but completely backwards. It suggests that the people we think are running the world might actually be the weakest links in the chain.
And the strongest person.
The strongest person might be someone completely invisible to the public eye, someone you'd walk right past on the street without a second glance.
That is a massive claim to make. You're essentially talking about an invisible hierarchy.
We are. Today we're diving into part 4 of the book The Unborn, or in Arabic, Al-Adhina Lam Yuladu, bought by Dr. Ahmed Khairy Al-Omari. Now, we've covered him before when we talked about psychological battles, but this section, it feels different.
It really does. It moves from psychology into what I can only really describe as spiritual physics.
Spiritual physics, I like that.
Yeah, because the earlier parts of the book were about, cleaning up your internal mess, the psychology of the self. This part is about mechanics. It's about plugging that cleaned up self into a power grid.
Right.
Al-Omari is rewriting the laws of thermodynamics for the human soul here. He's asking this fundamental question: where does true power actually originate?
And he doesn't start with some abstract philosophy either. He starts with a very specific, visceral, physical sensation. He describes the feeling a person has immediately after walking out of a mosque following a congregational prayer.
And he's rigorous here. He's not talking about that vague sense of mindfulness or zen.
No, he's very specific. He describes a sensation of absolute dominance. He argues that in those few minutes after the prayer concludes, that individual feels like the strongest person in the world.
Which, to a skeptic, sounds like a massive ego trip, right? Like, I just prayed, so now I'm better than everyone.
It totally does. It would be arrogance if the power came from them, if they were generating it themselves. But Al-Omari's entire argument rests on the idea that this strength is derivative.
It's not intrinsic to the human.
Right. It's the difference between being a battery and being the device plugged into the wall. He uses the concept of standing before the Lord of Glory,
Which he defines as the ultimate source of power in the universe. When you stand before that creator, you aren't just reciting words. You are absorbing a charge.
Let's stick with that battery metaphor for a minute, because the text relies on it heavily, and honestly, it's just the best way for a modern brain to grasp this.
It works because we all understand battery drain. Al-Omari suggests that life is essentially a draining process. Your job, your anxieties, the traffic, the news cycle, it all depletes your charge.
And if you're operating solely on your own internal resources, you are eventually going to hit 0%.
Exactly. You go into power-saving mode.
Yeah.
You become sluggish, anxious, and fundamentally weak.
So in this framework, the prayer isn't a ritual or a cultural duty, it's a docking station.
Precisely. It's a recharge. And this is where the physics really comes in. He uses this vivid imagery regarding the devil or destructive forces. He says that when a person is fully charged after this connection, the devil appears as a dwarf.
A dwarf. That is such a specific visual.
It's about perspective scaling. Think about it. When you are depleted, when you're tired and stressed out, your problems loom over you like giants. A small bill feels like a bankruptcy. A weird look from your boss feels like you're getting fired.
Because you feel small.
Right. The negativity seems massive because you feel small. But when you're charged,
The problems don't necessarily disappear.
no, the bill is still there.
Yeah.
But because your stature has increased, because you are backed by that infinite power, the problems shrink. They scale down. They become dwarfs. They are suddenly manageable.
There's a phrase he uses in this section that I actually stop and look up to fully appreciate. He talks about moving from being a 0 on the left to a difficult number.
Ah, yes. That is a fantastic idiom. It comes from Arabic math notation, but it works perfectly in English too, if you think about it.
Break it down for us.
So imagine the number 5. If you put a 0 to the left of it, 0, 5, what happens to the value?
Nothing. It's still just 5.
Exactly. The 0 adds absolutely no value. It's just a placeholder. It occupies space on the page, but it carries no weight in the calculation. It is insignificant.
That is a brutal way to describe a human being. A placeholder.
It's harsh, yeah. But Al-Omari argues it's the default state of a disconnected human. Without that connection to the source, you're just biological matter taking up space. You are a zero on the left.
But the charge, that connection we talked about, transforms you into a difficult number.
Right.
What does difficult number imply here? Like, hard to deal with?
It implies weight, complexity, significance. It means you become a variable in the equation of existence that cannot be ignored. You have gravity.
You're no longer a passive observer.
Exactly. You become an agent of change because you are backed by infinite power. You become a factor that the world has to reckon with.
Okay, so we have this individual who has gone from a zero to a hero via this spiritual charging station. But the text takes a sharp turn right here. It says you can't just stay in that charged state alone. We have to talk about the group, or Jama.
This is where Al-Omari really challenges the Western ideal of the lone wolf. We love that story, don't we? The self-made person, the solo hero against the world.
We really do.
But the text argues that lonely individualism is actually a state of extreme vulnerability.
He drops some math here that I need you to unpack. He says that one person in the group equals 27 people compared to those walking alone in the markets. Now, I know there's a theological basis for this number, but how is he applying it to this physics concept?
So, traditionally, in Islamic theology, the congregational prayer is said to be 27 times more rewarding than praying alone. That's the baseline data. But Al-Omari isn't interested in a points system or a spiritual scorecard here. He treats this as a physics equation regarding leverage.
Leverage. How so?
Think about it mechanically. If I try to push a stalled car by myself, I might move it an inch. I'm exerting force, but the resistance is high. If I get 27 people to push it, we don't just move it 27 times faster, we can move it over a mountain. It's a multiplier effect. He's saying that the quality of your being changes when it's integrated into a collective.
He uses an analogy of threads versus a rope to explain this solidity.
Yes, take a single thread. You can snap it with 2 fingers. It has no structural integrity on its own. But if you weave 27 threads together into a rope, it becomes nearly unbreakable. It's not just more thread, it's a completely different structural material.
But here is the catch. To get that strength, you have to give something up. The text talks about melting the ego, which sounds uncomfortable. We spend our whole lives trying to build up our egos, our personal brands, our uniqueness.
That is the paradox of this type of power. To become strong, you had to disappear, in a sense. Al-Omari describes a psychological shift where the narrow I, your selfish, limited identity, melts into the big we.
The narrow I, that's a powerful visual.
When you stand in that row at the mosque, shoulder to shoulder, foot to foot, nobody cares if you're a CEO or a student or a janitor. The hierarchy dissolves. You are just a unit in the wall. And Al-Omari argues that this melting is actually protective. He brings in the metaphor of the sheep and the wolf.
Stray sheep gets eaten.
Always. The wolf representing the devil, or depression, addiction, external attacks, targets the stray. The one on the outskirts. The group creates a fortress. By surrendering your need to be the special individual, you actually gain a protection that your individual ego could never provide.
There's a very physical description of this group dynamic that really caught my eye in the text. He talks about an electric current.
This connects back to the battery metaphor. He describes the row of people as a conductive circuit. When you stand shoulder to shoulder, you aren't just standing next to someone, you're completing a circuit.
That's fascinating. So the energy isn't just vertical from God to man, it's horizontal.
Exactly.
Yeah.
The energy flows through the community. If there are gaps in the line, the circuit breaks, the current drops. But when the line is solid, that energy passes through everyone. It implies that you can't fully access the divine power source in isolation. You need the conductivity of the human community to handle the voltage, so to speak.
It's like the difference between a single AA battery and a Tesla grid. The capacity just scales up exponentially.
And this leads to what I think is the most subversive part of the text. Because if this is where real power lies in this connection and this group solidarity, then our entire definition of who is successful or elite is complete garbage.
Oh, he really goes after the elite here. It felt personal when I read it.
He pulls absolutely no punches.
He lists all the standard status symbols. The magazine covers, the yacht owners, the private jet set, the people looking down from skyscrapers.
The 1%, as we call them.
Right. Society tells us to envy them. We are told they are the somebodies and everyone else is a nobody. And Al-Omari looks at that list and says, no, those are the unborn. They are asleep.
He deconstructs modern status completely. He suggests that those symbols, wealth, fame, visibility, are superficial. They are the unborn, in a sense, because they're engaged in a distracting dream. The true elite, according to the text, are defined by something else entirely.
So who are they? Who is the real 1% in this worldview?
His definition is beautiful in its simplicity. He says the true elite are those whom God loves to wake up every dawn to go to him.
Wait, let's pause on that. The elite are the people who wake up for the dawn prayer, for
Yep.
Fajr.
And I want you to think about the exclusivity of that club.
I mean, waking up at 4:30 or 5 a.m. is definitely exclusive. Most people are dead to the world.
Look at the numbers. Out of the billions of people on Earth, at that specific hour before sunrise, the vast majority are unconscious. Of those awake, many are working night shifts or maybe finishing up a party. Only a tiny, tiny fraction of humanity is awake specifically to stand before the Creator. Al-Omari argues that this is the true selection process.
It completely flips the social pyramid. The guy cleaning the floors or the student struggling with debt, if they are in that line at dawn, they are the VIPs.
They are spiritual royalty. It challenges us to look at the world with X-ray vision. You might see a billionaire and think power, but in this framework, if they're disconnected from the source, they are weak. Conversely, you might see a nobody on the street, but if they are part of the dawn group, they are a difficult number that moves the universe.
This leads us to the section titled The Secret Appointment, which sounds almost clandestine, like a spy novel.
It is intimate. He frames the dawn prayer not as a chore, but as a secret date.
A date.
Yes. He asks, why do these people wake up? He insists it's not the alarm clock.
Which, on a practical level, it probably is my phone alarm. But he's digging deeper into the drive, right?
He's talking about the motivation. The alarm rings for everyone. Most people hit snooze. What makes a person actually get up, fight the sleep inertia, and leave the warmth of their bed? He calls it a gentle tap on the wall of the heart.
That is poetry right there. A gentle tap on the wall of the heart.
It changes the framing entirely, from duty to invitation. You don't drag yourself out of bed in the freezing cold for a rule or a regulation. You do it for a relationship. You do it because you have an appointment with a source of power, and you don't want to stand them up.
And there's a specific reward mentioned, too. Something about light.
Yes, the text promises the complete light on Judgment Day. It contrasts the artificial, temporary lights of our world, the camera flashes, the office fluorescence, the phone screens, with a permanent, enduring illumination.
And this ties back to the book's title, The Unborn.
It brings it full circle. Al-Omari is suggesting that those who sleep through this call, who chase the yachts and the likes, are essentially still in the womb. They're dormant. They haven't been born into the real reality yet. But those who answer the tap on the heart, they are fully alive. They are the born.
It's almost like the Matrix. They've unplugged from the illusion and plugged into the real grid.
That's a very apt comparison. They see the code behind the world.
So to recap the journey we've taken today, we start as a 0 on the left, disconnected and insignificant. We plug into the battery to become a difficult number, someone with real weight. We melt our ego into the group to create a voltage multiplier. And we realize that the true elite aren't the billionaires, but the people answering a secret invitation at dawn.
That is the exact roadmap to power he lays out.
The text wraps up with a concept that I think is really timely, the idea of club membership.
He frames the month of Ramadan specifically as the annual membership drive for this club.
The most prestigious club in the universe, but with the weirdest entry requirements.
Exactly. Unlike the country clubs or the executive lounges, you can't buy your way in.
Yeah.
There is no platinum card that opens this door. No connections will get you on the list.
So what's the entry fee?
Sincerity. And simply showing up. The entry fee is standing in the first rows. It is open to literally anyone who is willing to pay the currency of discipline and devotion.
It really forces you to reevaluate what we chase. We spend so much energy trying to get into rooms network with this person, get invited to that party, get verified on that platform. But Al-Omari is saying the most important room is open and the doors unlock. You just have to wake up.
And you have to be willing to lose that narrow eye to become part of something greater. It's a challenge to the modern ego. Our ego wants to be the star of the show. This text says, stop trying to be the star and become part of the constellation. The payoff is a type of resilience that the material world simply cannot offer.
I think that's the big takeaway for me. We aren't talking about being submissive or weak or just checking boxes on a religious to-do list. We're talking about accessing a strength that makes the devil look like a dwarf.
A strength that doesn't fluctuate with the stock market or your social media likes. It is constant because its source is constant.
So as we wrap up this deep dive, I want to leave you with the final challenge Dr. Al-Omari poses. It's a heavy one, and it lingers.
It's a question that demands a real answer. It's not rhetorical.
Next time you hear the call, whether it's the literal Adhan or just that gentle tap on your heart, what are you going to do? Will you hit snooze and remain a zero, trying to run on 1% battery? Or will you join the hidden elite who, as the author puts it, move the earth with their prostration?
The invitation is there. The choice is yours.
And actually, I want to add one more thought to that before we go, something for you to chew on today. We've talked a lot about waking up, but think about what happens when you go to sleep tonight. Are you just powering down a depleted battery, hoping to survive another day of drain? Or are you setting an intention to receive that tap on the heart? Because how you choose to close your eyes might be the real secret to how you finally wake up. Thanks for taking this deep dive with us. We'll see you on the next one.